All right, so we're talking about something kind of fun today.
Talking about the Tesla stock. Now, before we get started, we are not financial advisors. Let's put the screen up there. Yeah, yada, yada. Don't listen to us.
Right.
We're just two guys on YouTube. If you listen to us, that's your own fault because there's plenty of crazy stuff on YouTube. But let's talk about what happened this week.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the chart here. And as you can see, basically Tesla has been trading in this band between about 200 and sub 400 for about a year.
Right.
And during that time, whenever the Fudsters, had a good little story they could pull out, the stock would dip and sometimes even dip below 200, and everyone got really scared. It just was kind of trailing there for about a year. And then just recently, we got this. So about January 10th, Tesla stock price busted above 500 for the first time ever, and that started getting a lot more attention and excitement. I am guessing also because it's a psychological number. 500 is just this, it's just a number, right? But a lot of people, it's like, whoa, it's never been at 500 before.
Right. And I mean, it really, at the start of this year is when we started to see an upward trend for Tesla's stock. And that was mostly on the heels of the Gigafactory in Shanghai being built and Model 3s coming out of the factory. You have dancing Elon, which definitely helped the stock. And then with the Q4 earnings call and the earnings letter, which showed Q4 being profitable. So we saw, 2 quarters of profitability. They're really dominating the electric market, especially in new markets like Europe and China. They're starting to come out ahead in many different countries and just sort of exploding onto the roads as well. I mean, there's just been such a increase in the number of Teslas on the road in many different places.
I've been watching a couple guys on YouTube that back in May of 2019 kind of predicted this. Check this out. So what we're talking about on In Depth this week is the Fudsters window.
What? What is what?
All right, so I've been investing in the stock market since 1983, since I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. And I've watched the patterns of like hundreds of stocks daily since then. So I think I'm pretty good at recognizing pattern. What you begin to see when you zoom out and you get a perspective on stocks, surprise, surprise, is that stocks go up and they go down, but they do it in patterns usually. They turn through an up and down cycle. They usually break out either to the upside or the downside of that pattern. And as Kathy Wood from ARK Invest has said, the longer that churn, usually the bigger the breakout, either to the upside or the downside.
Okay.
I thought I'd make it a little easier to see here. So this is a chart of Tesla from about 2010 on. And you can see that there's 3 basic patterns here that once you draw the lines, it looks pretty apparent. Now, without the lines, it can be kind of like, what are you talking about?
A little challenging to pinpoint, but I see them here, yeah.
Yeah, drew in the lines just to make it easier. So that first pattern was a very small band of up and down, and it happened from 2010 till about, 2013. And then it busted out to the upside. Then it started the second pattern, which is even a bigger range. You can see quite a bit of churn, and that's unusual. And that's what we see in Tesla, right? Because you've got so much, so many of us that are like, it's going to be big. And you got so many short sellers who are like, it sucks. So I'm going to predict that probably around Q1 of 2020 would be the time when some good news will start coming out about profitability. And that's really something you can't play around with that much.
You can't hide too much about the profitability?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to come up with fear and uncertainty when a company's just making money. There'll be so much good news coming out of Tesla then. I mean, Shanghai Gigafactory should be fully operational then.
True. So you're saying Q1 of next year, because they'll hopefully have 2 quarters of profitability, both Q3 and Q4 of this year.
Right.
And so then it's kind of like, as long as they're showing strong profits there, it's kind of undeniable that they're going to be continuing with that.
Right.
Okay.
Because let's not forget, a lot of the FUD we're getting now is just based on this self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh, the stock is down. That's become its own story.
Right.
Oh, the stock is down. And you can't run that story forever.
Wow. Q1 of 2020, we were expecting to see a breakout.
Yeah.
And that was back in May of 2019. If you don't believe us...
Can I just give us a little pat on the back? I mean, I think it's time for a little victory lap here for all of us in Tesla Nation, because we've been kind of holding our breath, at least I feel like I have, for the past few years, as, something good would happen and then a huge FUD story would crush it down and you'd be like, ah. So now we've hit this point where I feel like we've busted out, and here's kind of why I feel that way. We've had some pretty big players who had been Tesla bears flip.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim Cramer is an excellent example of this. He kind of flipped just around the same time that BlackRock flipped. BlackRock obviously being that really big fund manager that said that they are not going to support fossil fuel industry anymore.
And by big, we mean trillions of dollars.
The biggest.
Right.
The biggest, right? And so that, I think, has a really big impact on the market because they're looking at some of the biggest players and saying, oh, wow, this is serious. We're not just, talking about, a couple of hippies, who care about the environment. It's now the largest fund manager in the world. Thanks so much for watching this Now You Know clip.
Head over to Now You Know channel for full episodes of Tesla Time news and in depth.
And if you want to treat yourself and your family to something amazing, check this out.
Jesse and I have been enjoying Masterclass, where we've been learning all sorts of fun topics from the masters themselves.
Yeah, business leadership skills from Bob Iger. Yeah, that Bob Iger.
Jazz from Herbie Hancock.
Basketball from Steph Curry. Yeah, that Steph Curry.
And so many more.
Click the link down below to support our channel and experience what it's like to learn from the masters at Masterclass.